Alright gang, it's time to service the John Deere LX255. First thing I'm going to do is take the hood off so it's just out of our way. Easy enough. If you've ever taken a tailgate off a truck, very similar. And I already unplugged the lights. And I already talked about liking the Kohler. I've got the oil dipstick loose so that I can change the oil. I've already checked the air filter. Air filter's good. I've got the deck set all the way down so when I jack it up I can inspect the spindles, grease and oil wherever I need grease and oil. And just a little tip, when you're going to take your oil filter off there, take this one screw out. It's a number 3 Phillips. And just lift that piece up out of there. The reason being, it gives you much better access to that oil filter. So just pop that guy off. One single screw holds it on, and it just has a couple of tabs here that locate it on the bottom side. And once you have that off, you're ready to change the oil. So let's do that. Get our ugly dirty oil pan under here, and let's just use the Nipex pliers wrench. I want to make sure it's not going to drop down too far. I think we'll be all right. You're still going to make a little bit of a mess with the oil when you take the oil filter off. As you can see, it's running out pretty quick. If you loosen the oil fill and oil check cap, that takes the vacuum away from it, allows everything to flow a little better. Plus, engine was warmed up beforehand, which is another important thing to do. And I'll grab my little oil filter milk carton. Excuse me. You guys may or may not remember this. I've got this cut out so I can slide it under the oil filter, so when I take the oil filter off I catch the majority of the oil that's going to come off with it. And it works on most riding mowers. We are not sitting level. I'm gonna have to hold this, that, or figure out a way to prop it up. Oil is just about done coming out. I don't know if we can get this loose by hand or not. Nope. I'm gonna have to get the oil pliers out. I've got a bunch of different types for a bunch of different situations. Sometimes they're really hard to get to. Other times I just grab the really big channel locks. And using the really big channel locks works really good. Alright, for the moment I'm going to go ahead and cap that off and dump this oil so that I can get that oil filter off of there and not have to worry about dumping all the dirty oil all over it. I just took probably 20 gallon of used oil to my mechanic, my real mechanic, not that place that put my engine in. And while we're doing this change here, excuse me again, I'll also talk to you guys about some work that just got done to Ruby. I had the transmission flushed and refilled with Dex 6 full synthetic, and of course new filter, new pan gasket. And I also had Rick at Automotive West have Todd put the new oil pan on. Now I paid to have that oil pan put on. Why would I do that when I could take it to Broadway Motors and have Broadway Motors install it for free because they screwed up and it's under warranty? Well, it boils down to I just really don't trust them. And sometimes you have to pay, which I am fine with. Sometimes you have to pay for the peace of mind and having the quality. So now we're going to shove this under there, and we've got an oil pressure switch we've got to contend with, but it'll still go. Loosen that oil filter up. And quite a bit of oil is going to come out with it. So we'll break the seal. There we go. Oil filter's out. That was easy and painless. And there is quite a bit of oil standing and pouring off. You gonna stay there? Stay there. Excuse me again. I know. I keep walking in front of you. Just gonna see if I can scrape some of that oil off of there. I could just pop the oil pressure sensor switch off of there and let it drain out of that, and then put it back on and reseal it. There it went. It dropped down. Drippy, drippy. And we've got the majority of that oil off of there, so we'll take a nice clean shop towel, clean that surface really well, and we can go ahead and spin a new filter on there. And yes, I am putting a Briggs filter on a Kohler engine. It's fine. Alright, that, I'm just about done dripping. Get just a little bit of this used oil here, put it on the seal. So anyway, Ruby got his transmission flushed, had full synthetic put back in, and I also grabbed a 1,500 mile oil sample. I have put 2,000 miles on Ruby thus far, roughly 2,000 miles. And so the next oil sample from changing the oil pan out, that oil sample has gone off to I'm just reading. See operator's manual for lift assist spring adjustment. I don't know what that is. That must be for if you have a blade on the front. Sent the second oil sample off to Blackstone Labs, and once they get it and they analyze it, I'll get a email with the report, and then I'll share the report with you guys once it gets here, or once it's emailed. And I know you guys haven't seen a whole lot of action from me, and while we're doing the service on this, I will do my level best to explain why. For the past 25 years, I have been fighting with a not really fighting with, but contending with mental health. And the mental health issue that I have in particular is bipolar disorder. Have periods of manic depression, have periods of, it's a whole thing. You can look it up, bipolar disorder. I've been medication free for a very long time because I learned some meditation techniques from my psychologist, and it was actually the day before, I think I've mentioned this before, a long time ago. It was the day before she went back to her homeland of India, and she stayed over, worked over to show me meditation techniques, and it worked well enough that I was able to get off of all of my medications, which is just golden for me. I hate taking these pills all the time. I guess you guys can look at me. So anyway, I've been dealing with that. I've been struggling quite a bit since this whole pandemic thing has happened. A lot of anxiety. Kind of back into a familiar groove of the agoraphobia being an issue with me. And you guys can look that up too. Agoraphobia is just a fear of, is that the right one? Agoraphobia? Agoraphobia, that's not spiders. That's the fear of being in unfamiliar places. Anyway, I have the fear of being in unfamiliar places, and that was a tough one to get over. Lisa and I are no longer seeing one another, and the whys and wherefores don't really matter. I still love her. She still loves me. Sometimes things just don't work out, so don't be sad for me. I'm fine in that regard, and she is healing. So anyway, I've been dealing with that, so the camera hasn't gotten turned on a lot, except for with my partnership with Olight. There really hasn't been a whole lot of real content, so we're getting back into it. We've got this one to tend to. We've got the Cub Cadet Zero Turn that's making a funky racket. So now that we are done with extricating all the oil, we will now fill the oil, and then we're going to lift this thing up on its rear haunches using the electric lift, and pull the blades, sharpen, balance, lube all the pivot points, grease all the grease zerks, inspect the belts, check the tranny, so on and so forth. So let's get busy doing that. Next time you see this, it'll be up in the air. Alright, we're underneath, and I'm just giving any pivot point just the tiniest little bit of oil, like I do on all of them as I'm servicing. So I will do that, the rest of that off camera. I'm going to clean these grease zerks off. You always want to clean your grease zerks before sticking your grease gun on there. And I've got to thank my neighbor Dave. He came across an air-powered grease gun, and let me tell you, I've just been a greasing fool ever since I got it. It's not an expensive one, but it definitely gets the job done. Get the air chuck off there, and plug the grease gun in, give myself enough hose. And the reason why I always grease with the front end up off the ground is so that I get a gap, so that I take the load off of the kingpins or the spindles, and that gives the grease a better chance of coming down here at the bottom where it needs it the most. So we'll pop it on there. And this is marine. There, just popped out. And we'll come back over here on this side. I don't know if you can see this side or not, but there we go. And it even pushes the spindles down a little bit when it gets them full. Air check back on. I may have other areas with grease zerks, more than likely up underneath with the steering. I'm going to go through, finish doing the lubrication. Where's my pivot point? I need to lubricate that. And yeah, there's no grease zerk for that. So I'm going to continue on after I get everything lubricated here. Then we're going to come down underneath. Underneath side of the deck is really clean, so I don't need to get rid of broccoli, but I'm going to pull the blades off, sharpen them, balance them, and we'll get those back on. And I've already checked the hydro fluid. I will show you how to do that right now. It's actually pretty easy. Underneath the seat on these particular models of tractors, you check your trans oil right there, and the container is a opaque plastic container that you can see through, so you can see your levels. You have a high level and a low level, and the levels on it were just fine. So I'm going to commence the lubricating, get all that done. We'll check the tire pressures and look and see, do we have, okay, no grease zerks on the wheels. I don't feel any play there. Don't feel any play there. Those are doing all right. We'll go through and check the air pressures and everything. I added some oil. I'll let it down after I'm done, and we'll top off the rest of the oil, start it up, and just do all the fun, happy stuff that we do when we're servicing one of these guys. Like I say, if I come across anything odd or unusual, I will pop the camera back on. But anything that looks like it moves, put oil on it, drop or two. Doesn't need a lot. Just helps keep things from wearing out. Well, it might not be the best seat in the house, but you can at least see 18mm bolt. There's one. Let's get the other one off. There's two. All right. Now, this does not surprise me because Smitty is an avid fisherman. So it doesn't surprise me that there's fishing line all over it. Okay, I'm gonna clean the blades, get all the broccoli off of the blades here because that'll affect the balance. Then we'll get them sharpened. So let's go over to the workbench. As always, first thing I do is balance these guys to see if I have a heavy side, and then I'll work on that side first. So, oh, I got bag gonna be in the way. Pull it out a little bit, and definitely has a heavy side and a light side, doesn't it? So what do? We mark it, but not before we check to make sure that the blade is not bent. Back around. Okay, we are not bent. Let's find the heavy side again, right there. And then I just mark it so that I know, quite simply, heavy side. Do that with both of them. And these are mulching blades. I will not be breaking out the blade sharpener for these. I'll be using the angle grinder, and I'll explain why in a moment. Let's check and see. Good. Good. All right. Pull it out a little bit. And where's our heavy side? Not as heavy, but this is our heavy side over here. And we mark the heavy side. All right. Now, why am I not going to use my blade sharpener? Well, take a look at the edge. The edge goes up. See how it has that? That blade sharpener of mine does not like anything but a flat edge. So I will go at this with an angle grinder. Oops, excuse me. I'll go at this with the angle grinder. And once I get the blade sharpened, we'll stick them back on the balancer and see how they look. You guys have seen me sharpen blades with the angle grinder before. I may pop the camera on for just a second. It's going to be noisy, obviously, but I'll show you kind of how I do it. So hang on. Okay, here we go. Noise alert. And just try to watch my body motion more than the actual grinder on the blade. Make sure that you guys can see this well enough. Just watch my body motion. I kind of lock my arms into place, and then I just move my whole body to get the edge. So here we go. Noise alert. What I'm doing right here is just finding my angle. As soon as I get my angle, then I can just go right on through with this motion right here and get a nice, good, clean, sharpened edge. I want to show you guys what's happening here. These have been sharpened by somebody else many times, and you can see I've caught this upper edge just right, and I'm maintaining the same angle, but down here I haven't even touched the edge yet, so the angle doesn't match. So I've got to grind it until the angle matches on both sides. So I'm going to continue on, and when we're ready to check the balancing of the blades, we'll pop you back on. There's blade number one balanced. We'll grab the other one, stick it on there. And I do this for you guys, sure, but I also do it for the customer. So as you can see, it's just slightly heavy on that one side, so take a little bit more out of that. You're allowed 30 degrees, which is just about where it's at, but I'm not happy with them until they're completely horizontal. And just a couple little swipes on the side that was heavy, and we're done. Now we can pop that off of there, hopefully with one hand. And to keep my magnets clean for when I'm grinding other stuff, need to get a shop rag up over all that. Come on, behave. Get on there. It's sticking. Why are you sticking to my hand? Sorry, I'm all over the place there. There. I just do that to keep the magnets clean. Alright, now we put these back on, let her back down, top off the oil, and give her a test run. I guess we did have a little bit of broccoli. Go ahead and get that off. Not too much. This is the fun part, huh? And the plastic cover, that is, I'm doing the other side. The plastic cover covering the pulley opposite of the discharge side is trapping a lot of grass, so we do need to pop that off and get that grass out of there. So we're just about done. It's a bunch of catch-alls designed into this deck that just grabs grass. Okay, good enough. Let's throw the blade on that you guys can see. Get her started. I haven't popped that air impact out for a while. You know what? Come on. So, you know, I can see a gap above that blade, so that tells me it is not on right yet. Back it off a little. There we go. Alright, yeah, the air impact has not been out of the drawer for quite a while. I did pop a wheel off the back of Ruby and just check the drum brake on one side. It hangs up just in the morning, which is weird. But other than that, it's been all electric. All electric. All battery powered electric. Alright, we've got that done. So let's get her down on the ground, top the oil off, and pop that cover. I'll show you. Pop that cover off right there. Get the grass out from underneath the deck. So hang on. Alright, before we get too far, this battery is a second, and it's got quite a bit of acid on it. Let me take care of that real quick. Hang on. Don't go away. I'm not leaving you. Okay, I'm back. Blow that out. Watch your eyes. Now let's neutralize that acid. Acid detector and neutralizer. I've had this can for years. Alright, now we're going to test the battery. We've got our positive, we've got our negative. I believe this is a 51R. So the cold cranking amp should be up there a good bit, but since it's marked second, we'll just, alright, in vehicle, get it to where you guys can actually read that. Before charge, regular flooded, cold cranking amps. Yeah, it's a lot more than that. We'll take it up to around 350. which is plenty enough for this engine. You ready? Let's test it. We'll have state of health on the left, state of charge on the right in the top. State of health 3%, state of charge 76%. So it's a good thing we checked it. It needs a new battery, so we're going to go ahead and throw one in there. Boy, we had an awful lot of acid. I went in, got under here, and it was actually caked pretty thick, so I scraped all that out, sprayed the acid neutralizer on it. It was also weeping over here onto this wiring loom, so I got that taken care of. Got to clean this up just a little bit more. And even though I'm not putting a top post battery, standard top post battery in a 51, we're still putting a where to put it? Where's the battery? Where did it go? My battery disappeared. I know I pulled it out. I set it somewhere. Where did I? There it is. Yeah. I'll still be able to mount this battery without any problem, and it's plenty of cold cranking amps. Obviously more than what the engine was putting out, right? So a little bit to add to the tally is a new battery. That's why I always keep them on hand. And I also took care of the fuel filter, but we're just about ready to push it outside and get the broccoli out from underneath the plastic cover down here. Let's get the battery back in. A little bit of a gripe, a little bit of a rant. Part of the reason why I don't like working on John Deere is because the engineering on them doesn't make sense. Any other deck that has belt covers on it will have bolt studs welded to the deck so that you can easily take the covers off. This, no, it's got carriage bolts, so I have to raise the thing up in order to hold the carriage bolt so I can get the nut off and get the broccoli cleaned out from underneath of it. Gripe over. Alright, let's lift this cover up. See how little grass there is under it. Are you ready? Yeah. Thanks, Deere. You suck. I really don't like working on Deeres. Anyway, is what it is though, right? Helping neighbors out. And yeah, it's an older gentleman, so having him get down on his hands and knees and clean all this out isn't exactly that easy of a task for him. Come on, get out of there. Alright, now I can clear stuff out a little better. I'm gonna work on this. I'll show you after I get it all cleaned out. John Deere, why can't you make things a little easier on owners? Oh, I know why. Because you're playing the end game where you can make money from rotted out decks that people have to replace. It was just packed everywhere. I mean, anywhere you can see, even underneath the idler and all that, just packed tight. All right. Half tempted to leave that cover off so that Smitty has a better chance of keeping the grass out of it. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll just leave that off for now, and if he wants it back on, I'll put it back on, but I mean, that's nothing but a grass catcher. That's all that's good for. Your feet aren't going to hit that pulley. Your feet are going to be up here if the belt goes. In fact, the other one doesn't even have a belt cover on it. Well, I've still got a chunk in here. Come on, come out of there. Just when you think you've got it all, more shows up. Gee whiz. All right. Well, next up we will... I still don't know what that's for. I did see a really big spring under there, so must just be for whichever deck you're using, is how much spring tension you use on that. That would be my guess, right? Just moves. Yeah. Okay, now I understand. Anyway, we'll kick it back on here in a second. And I might also add, plastic hoods, really? All I did was set the hood on the pins, and the hood just decided it was just gonna blow apart. Really? Well, looks like I'll be looking for a LX255 hood for this thing. Ah, John Deere, why do you do stuff so cheap? Anyway, I've got a crack over here too, and seriously, all I did was put the hood on. That was it. Then it decided it was just gonna, when I went to close it, just kerthunk. John Deere, you've been on my list for a lot of years, and your crappy hoods is pretty much tops the list. Anyway, yeah, isn't that magical? All I did was slide that hood on onto the pins the way it's supposed to be, slid on, and the hood just freaking disintegrates. Well, looks like I'm gonna be getting the hot iron out and stitching it back together from the inside, try to hold it in one piece until I can find him another hood. If you guys want to know how to stitch plastic together using a hot iron, a soldering gun, go check out 65 Ford. He has been a magician with his Volkswagen truck. So we're going to go ahead and call this one. Starts, runs, mows, does everything it's supposed to do. I did that off camera, and I'll get a hold of Smitty, have him come down, show him what the hood did when I just went to put it on. And I know he'll say, well, that's all right, but I'm still going to stitch it together so that it'll hopefully hold together while I try to locate a hood for him. So anyway, there you go. Friendly neighborhood Zippo, working on blasted John Deeres that just like to break and collect grass. Anyway, promise you guys, I will see you when I see you. Later. I'm out of here. Well, I may as well show you. These work really, really well, and they usually come with a bunch of different types of tips on them. So I've gone in there and I have stitched. You can see the stitching all the way up and around. Now we'll set it to the side so you can see what it looks like from the side. And you can see it pretty good right here. But I don't want to stitch on the outside. That'll just make it look worse. Let me make sure I got every little crack. Take a look. Zigzag, zigzag, zigzag. All the way out. That comes all the way up to there. Oh, it goes on underneath that sticker. So I'm going to have to lift that sticker like I did over here and go ahead and do a little more stitching there just to keep it from coming apart while I hunt a new hood for him, or a good used hood rather. Just the plastic that they make these things out of is so brittle. Anybody who's owned these John Deeres knows that. My uncle had an STX 38. He did the same thing. He opened the hood, checked the oil, put the hood down, and the hood just split into two pieces. Come on, John Deere. It doesn't do any good to gripe about them because they're not going to fix the problem. They make too much money on the backside. So there you go. There it is, stitched together. Yeehaw. All right. Now, I'll see you when I see you.